soon as Jake starts flipping over his Pokemon, that's going to be a blast Chip for sure.
Yeah, like we mentioned earlier, Connor is probably going to have to read a lot of Jake's cards, try to get up to date with exactly what's happening. I love to see something like this coming out and finding success. You know, I've seen people talk about how there's limited room for creativity in a format like this where there's so many meta decks that you have to prepare for. I would call this a pretty creative deck.
Very creative indeed. And look at those records so far here in Peoria. Both of our players sitting at 3-0 with their decks, respectively. And Spidops EX being one of those 3-0 decks is incredible. I'm sure the Spidops fans in the chat going ham right now. They are losing it, I'm sure, to see representation of a deck nobody expected here on the stream. So I'm very happy to be casting this match. Let's take a look at our prize cards for both of these players.
It doesn't seem like anything too bad. One Venomoth for Jake, that new Mew EX and the prizes for Connor. You know, maybe if he wanted to copy Jake's own Perplexing Powder, try to slow him down, something like that. Don't know if we would have realistically seen that. The Mew does have free retreat, so even though Spidops is going to be increasing your retreat cost, it makes it a little easier to get some movability. And right away, Connor, we see the flip of the cards, and Connor just says, oh boy.
Oh boy, indeed. We see Venonats coming down here onto the board for Jake. And Connor, knowing that Jake is also at a 3-0 record. So this is probably a little intimidating to be looking at right now. But Jake going to kick off the first turn of this game. So no supporter can be played here, but we'll see how Jake is able to line up this board state. I mean, I have never even seen this deck being played, Chip. I don't know if you have, but what is sort of the initial like setup that we're going to see? I feel like we're going to see a lot of Pokemon come out into the field.
Yeah, that's definitely the idea. Jake's deck is certainly a setup deck. You want to get multiple stage ones in play on the second turn, which can be a little bit difficult to do. You want to get your Venomoths to start attacking, and you want to get a bunch of Spidops in play to make it more difficult for your opponent to have any maneuverability on their next turn. So on this turn, I would expect to see at least 2 Tarantula. We'll expect to see at least 2 Venonat, and we're already there right away.
Already there. Yep, a level ball got us to one of those Tarantulas, and then an Ultra Ball is going to get us to that second one. But that Grass Energy and a Clara. I believe that is the only Clara in the deck for Jake. So unless we see a Pal Pad to get that back, it is now in the discard pile here for Jake. But yeah, all the Pokemon are joining the party here. We see that energy attachment onto the benched Venonat, and we're over onto Connor's side. Connor going second is able to play a supporter, but I don't think is that a research in hand?
Yeah, there is a research in the hand.
Look at the hand though, Chip.
Gonna try to draw one more with the Fleet-Footed, and that's probably one of the worst cards that Connor could have drawn. Gonna have to ditch that electric generator to the research. I mean, you have to play the research here.
Yeah.
I feel like you give yourself a chance to kind of pop off this turn and take a knockout before your opponent can do much. I don't think Path is really going to be what you want right now. You're not quite set up. Path is really interesting because it does turn off that trap territory ability from Spidops, so it feels like something that will be relevant in this matchup. A little unfortunate to have to see it hit the discard pile right away.
Yeah, of course, you can only accelerate those energy onto the bench, and there is no bench, so that research is going to discard that hand, and at least we have another 7 cards here for Connor to work with after that super clunky, awkward first hand. We did see also that Bravery Charm, 1 of 2 in the hand, go onto the field for that Raikou V, getting that boosted HP, and then we're going to see an Ultra Ball actually discard that energy and a Zapdos.
So, yeah, I'm really interested to see how Connor's going to approach this. When you're playing against something like this, and it looked like Connor was at least kind of familiar with what Jake's deck is doing, right? You know, we saw the flip of the Venonat. He goes, oh, boy. He kind of at least knows what's going on, which is definitely good in this spot. You kind of have to adjust what you're going to do in these positions. You don't really need to as aggressively pop off necessarily. You don't really want to fill the bench with a bunch of targets for your opponent to try to stall up in the active spot, try to stick confused in the active spot. We will see at least a Miraidon come down, and we'll see where else Connor wants to go with it.
Yep, we're going to see the tandem unit bringing down several more Pokemon onto the bench here. So we're going to see that Mareep and that Raikou V. The secondary Raikou V joining us on the bench here. But yeah, like you said, Chip, it's going to be some setup here from Connor and really utilizing saving the resources in this deck. This isn't a game where you're just gonna want to blow through your entire deck and dump everything in the discard necessarily. But hey, we have another electric generator. Let's see if it can get anything here for Connor. So far, no luck. And that is going to be a whiff, not a single energy here for Connor to be able to accelerate to the bench. And that is rough to see. Just kind of nodding the head here and accepting the fail on that.
Yeah.
But now that's 2 electric generators in the discard pile.
Yeah, that's definitely a bummer. You only get really 1 turn that you're probably going to be able to play items for the entire game. Connor really would have liked to have gotten a couple energy in play, and he even had an escape rope in hand. So if there had been 2 energy there, we could have seen them loaded up onto the Raikou V, and we could have seen the escape rope force something else active, which would have then led to a prize, at least on this first turn.
Yep, and now we're over to Jake's side of the field. We see that Spidops EX come down. It's the nice special artwork of it. I was wondering if Jake was going to be playing the full art because I love the full art card because I love Spidops, but everyone was making fun of me because it kind of looks like corn in the background. They're like, it's like he's on top of corn, but we have a different artwork here for that Spidops EX. But then we had to see the Iono because Jake didn't have anything else in hand. So it was an Iono for both players. They're both just going to draw into another 6 cards here.
And Jake doesn't find much here. Does have the Venomoth, but doesn't want to evolve if he's unable to attack this turn. And did, on the previous turn, choose to put a Grass Energy on this Venonat down here because he was respecting Connor's deck. Of course, Connor is really aggressive, really fast, totally could have knocked out the active Venonat. And if that had happened, Jake would have had an easy promotion to bring this Venonat up, get the evolution, and get your item lock going. But because Connor was unable to take a knockout, it actually sticks Jake with a position where he's not able to get off that turn 2 item lock attack. And that opens up the ability for Connor to have another opportunity to put some energy in play, but only hits 1.
Yeah, only going to be 1 energy, so that's going to be 3 electric generators to the discard. Again, as you said, if items are going to be locked for the rest of this game, you want to play as many as possible and get as much utilization from them in this early game, but it's just going to be a single energy here, going to be attached to the bench for Connor. So just going to decide where to put that energy. It's going to go on to that Miraidon EX, so starting to charge it up here, and then we still have the rest of the hand to decide what to play down. I think I saw a couple Pokemon in that hand. Ooh, the Collapsed Stadium. This is going to limit both of our players' benches to only 4 Pokemon, so that's actually going to force Jake to have to discard a Pokemon off that Collapsed Stadium. Yeah,
pretty strong turn to put that card into play, honestly. Jake just filled the bench up, so by limiting it a little bit more, you kind of get to deal with 1 Spidops before it even comes into play by forcing Jake to ditch that Tarantula.
Tarantula, that's a round boy right there.
Definitely
All
is.
right, Connor's going to draw into 7 additional cards here off that Professor's Research. So played a couple of cards out of the hands, and now we're going to see a fresh 7. Lots of choices, but it's just going to have to decide where to go, what the strategy is going to be here. Just get consistent knocks on Jake's Pokemon here. Raikou V going to have that fleet-footed to draw an additional card. We also saw that Forest Sealstone come down for the turn, and that's just going to be the knockout on that Venonat that Jake was wary of losing a turn before, but now this active is going to be another Venonat with that Grass Energy attached.
And Jake has just about everything he could want here. Has the Venomoth, has that Radiant Alakazam as well, and even a Boss's Orders to try to stick something active that is going to have a hard time moving. And that is going to be the boss bringing up this Mareep. So the fact that this came into play gave Jake this target, and now what Jake is going to aim to do is Perplexing Powder, put 30 damage onto this Mareep, and then on the next turn, what he'll do is he'll use this Radiant Alakazam down here and
spread them out.
Yep, those damage counters, they're going to go to different Pokemon on the bench. You're going to just be effectively doing 1 damage a turn, 10 damage, I should say, with the Perplexing Powder.
Yep.
And it's going to stick this Mareep up here for multiple turns.
Yeah, absolutely. That Perplexing Powder here on the Venomoth. So again, just to reiterate, that 30 damage, of course, here, but also your opponent's active Pokemon is now also confused. So that's just another layer added to this. Confuses your Pokemon, spreads out the damage, and of course they cannot play any item cards from their hands.
Yep. A couple of escape rope right there. I'm sure Connor would love to be able to play either of those out.
But you can't.
Nope, not an option here thanks to the Venomoth. does have quite a few energy, and there is only one Spite Ops in play. So what Connor can do is attach to the Mareep, and then next turn, attach Retreat, right? And then come up, take the knockout with Raikou. Jake is definitely, with one card in hand, going to be feeling a little bit of pressure here, and I really would like to see Connor do that. He even could, I guess, go for that first attack there with Mareep. It does 10 damage. Try to get a little bit in play, and then if you flip tails, you actually would knock out your own Mareep, which I don't even know if you would really care about. You might want the opportunity to get something else into your active spot.
All right, it's just going to be a pass here on now going to Jake's side of the field, though, straight into an Iono. This is what we saw in the last turn as well. So both these players are going to shuffle up their hands, put it to the bottom, but Connor's going to get one less card here, having taken a prize off that Venonat. So Jake over here has that powerful Venomoth already locked into position here in that active position. So now it's really up to Jake to just establish the rest of the board from here on out.
And does find a huge card here with the Ultra Ball, able to now search the deck for what I assume will be another Spite Ops EX. That means that Connor won't be able to potentially attach Retreat this Mareep this coming turn. So really does need to play this Ultra Ball. Ditching the Temple, that's a pretty easy choice, not a good card. In this matchup, your opponent plays no special energy cards. Losing Boss, though, not what Jake really wants to have to do. You could see he was kind of having a hard time figuring out what he wanted to get rid of.
Ooh, yep, and here we go. This is how things are playing out. The Painful Spoons ability on that Radiant Alakazam is going to spread that damage to the bench. So now it's only 1 damage counter currently on that tiny little Mareep here. So great utilization there. And then, of course, that Spite Ops EX, that Trap Territory ability, stacking more retreat cost for your opponent's active Pokemon. So it adds 1 additional retreat cost for each Spite Ops in play. So that's an extra 2 there on that Mareep.
So something interesting as well here for Connor, I actually see a Boss's Orders in hand currently. Spite Ops does have 2 retreat. So it's a Pokemon that can kind of get stuck up in the active spot, and that might be what Connor should try to go for, is just bring those up and try to buy a turn. Jake only had 2 cards in hand. Instead, though, Connor is going to go with the research, ditch that hand, and draw 7 more.
Yep, it's going to be the research here. So this is 7 additional cards, but there's another boss in the hand, at least for future turns. Again, none of those item cards in the hand can be played here for Connor. And it's starting to look like the wheels are turning here in Connor's head. Like, what do I do here with this turn? What is the best decision here with these cards?
Yeah, he does have Forest Sealstone as well. It doesn't look like an energy card was drawn, so Forest Sealstone could be used to search the deck for any single card. Maybe getting an energy attachment for the turn. And it will indeed be the flip of that V-Star marker. Let's see what he grabs.
Yeah, let's see what he grabs. He's going to search through this deck, which is much thinner here now. But yeah, eyeing up that path to the peak here. As we said before, that would shut down the Spite Ops EX abilities that are currently in play. And that Radiant Alakazam as well.
Yep. It does force Jake to find a replacement stadium. Maybe why Jake also may be debating keeping the Temple of Sinnoh around for that reason. Path comes down. This Mareep can now retreat. And we can see the Raikou come up and take a knockout. Venomoth, while it is pretty annoying to play against, it does only have 90 HP. So pretty much anything that is in a competitive meta deck is going to be able to take that out.
I mean, if it confused and made it so you couldn't play item cards and was like 200 HP, I'd be so upset, Chip.
Oh, no. So Connor here.
Oh, he fleet-footed?
Yeah, Path to the Peak being in play means you're unable to utilize the fleet-footed to draw that extra card. A little bit of a mishap here for sure. Not a missequence by any means. He had to put the Path to the Peak in play in order to move the Mareep to the bench.
Just overlooking that. Oh, yeah, I did just put that Path to the Peak in play. I can't use abilities either. Stops abilities from our rule box Pokemon. And, of course, Raikou V is a rule box Pokemon. So that fleet-footed is not able to be played. We'll have to wait till the judges can resolve how the that game state was broken. But I think it may have just been a shuffle here, Chip.
Yeah, what they did is they revealed the card to both players and now have randomized shuffled the deck.
Great. So we are moving forward in this game now. Of course, that Venomoth is going to go down. So Connor Hurst down another prize card, but that second Venomoth coming in to the active position now. Ooh, Bruno, interesting card here. We haven't seen that one in a while, Chip.
It has been a minute since the Rapid Strike Malamar days, I feel like.
Yeah, true.
Pretty decent supporter card. There's just kind of better options for most decks in the format, but in single prize decks like this, Bruno is actually pretty strong. You shuffle your hand into your deck, and then you draw 4 cards. Not a great effect, but if one of your Pokemon was knocked out during your last turn, you get to actually shuffle in and draw 7 new cards.
Yeah, so it's one of these supporters that we see oftentimes with the decks like this that have a bunch of single prizers that you're banking on going down because then you get to draw into more cards.
I think Jake missed the grass energy here, though.
How many grass does that actually play?
It is 7. There's quite a few, and another thing is there's not a replacement Venonat right now. Ooh. So Jake, it really probably needs to retreat this Venomoth, run away to a Tarantula, something like that, and hope that Connor does not have a way to take the knockout, but actually is just attaching to this active, or attaching, excuse me, to the benched Spidops, so Venomoth can go down here. It will just be a pass.
Wow, it's going to be a pass with that Venomoth, only 90 HP left in the active, so that's going to be going down for sure. Connor Hurst on the other side here now, able to kind of do whatever with this turn here. Establish the board a bit more, take another knockout, and hopefully take the rest of the lead in this game. I think we did see a prize penalty from Connor's side, so it looks like Jake has less prize cards to take.
Yeah, Connor now with the opportunity to play item cards, kind of breathes a sigh of relief. Will ditch 2 cards with the Ultra Ball, and I think gonna take the opportunity to get Flaffy in play, maybe try to get some more energy. I think if we go to another game here, depending on who wins this one in game number 1, I would definitely like to see Connor kind of adjust what he's done in this game. Yeah. I really don't think you want to have all these benched Pokemon in play for your opponent to try to
do whatever with, really.
Yeah, stall up in the active, something like that. Will be the generator here.
All right, and the generator is going to get at least 1 lightning energy here for Connor to be able to accelerate. That's all our generators. But yeah, as you said, Chip, it's interesting to see how this game has played out so far. Of course, Connor, I doubt, has played a lot against this deck.
Right.
Definitely has seen it around because there was a reaction there when the cards were first flipped. But who knows if Connor's even played against this. So maybe just kind of stuck in the... this is what I do with my Miraidon deck, and we could see some adjustments now that we've run through an entire game with these players so far.
It will just be Lightning Rondo taking the KO, and Jake now a whole turn away from attacking with a Venomoth. He needs to find a way to get a Venonat into play. He needs to get into another Venomoth on the next turn, and if I'm remembering right, Jake did prize a Venomoth. And there's already 2 in the discard pile, so he's going to have to find Super Rod or Clara. We already saw the Clara hit the discard pile, so it's going to have to be Super Rod to get those pieces back. He needs some help here for sure.
Yeah, that Tarantula being put into the active here, kind of a sacrificial spider at the moment. And we're seeing another Iono here from Jake. So both these players going to draw into some cards. Of course, Connor is only going to draw into 3 now that there's only 3 prize cards left on that side, whereas Jake is going to get 6.
Yeah, it's going to still be 6. Has not taken a prize card yet. Even though
the
prize
those
penalty
are red
is
ones.
there.
Yeah.
Right. Even though the prize penalty is in play, you still do get 6 cards. You still have 6 prize cards. We do see Trekking Shoes.
Yep. Trekking Shoes going to come into play. So you draw a card and you get to either discard it and draw another one or keep that card in your hands. It was a Venonat, though. So that Venonat is going straight to the hand here for Jake and into a Nest Ball as well. Nest Ball searching out another basic Pokemon for Jake. Just taking a quick look through the deck as well. Going to grab probably another Venonat.
Yeah, it looks like that'll be the choice. I like this decision here. You've got 1 in hand. Go get 1 out of the deck. You don't really need Nest Ball for anything else, so you just, you could bench a Venonat, but then you'd feel kind of silly if next turn you went to draw your card and it was the other one.
Yeah.
So use the Nest Ball, thin it out of the deck, really smart sequencing.
Very smart sequencing indeed. We're going to see finally that grass energy that we've been looking for. There's also another one in the hand for future turns, but this is going to be the energy attachment for turn. It looks like Jake is really debating whether or not to put this onto this Spidops EX on the bench or not, but is going to opt to put that down and then just pass it back over to Connor now.
will be the pass to Connor, who finds an energy for the Raichu. If he's got something like Boss's Orders, Raichu actually could come up and take a 2-prize KO on a Spidops. Doesn't need to necessarily do that this turn with 3 prizes remaining. I think you're fine just taking the 1 prize and then hoping at some point with enough energy cards built up in play, your Raichu can one-hit KO one of these Spidops EX.
Yep, Connor's just 3 prize cards away from taking this first game in our game 1, potentially. So just thinking through what he wants to do, but it's just going to knock out, take another prize card off of that Tarantula. And Jake is going to choose who to promote into the active here. It's going to be, of course, that Venonat that came down last turn, but we still need to see the Venomoth. But Ultra Ball was the draw for turn here for Jake.
Yeah, and with that third Venomoth, I believe, in the prizes. I'm not sure if we've seen a Super Rod yet this game, but there may not be.
Oh, yeah, I don't think there is one, actually. But Jake did just take a look through the deck, but maybe overlooked that. Did play the Ultra Ball here.
So Jake does have an Iono, so what he can do is go for the Iono. Yeah,
Ooh,
it looks like he's conceding here, recognizes that it's pretty low odds to get what he needs. He could have gone for the Iono, tried to find Super Rod plus a searching card to get a Venomoth into play, but recognized he was kind of too far behind. All his opponent needs to do realistically is flip a heads, right? And then the game is over. So let's just pack it up, go to game number 2, and see if we can find a way to maneuver things differently in this next one.
Yeah, Connor Hurst taking down our game 1 here with Miraidon EX against this very interesting deck within Spidops. EX and Venomoth, of course. I think the huge whiff there for Jake was just, again, not having that Venonat lined up, ready to go, and then, of course, whiffing that energy, not being able to attack with that Venomoth that was in the active either. So hopefully for Jake, things can go well here. Again, Connor played that collapsed stadium at the perfect time to limit that bench space and really disrupt Jake. And he just wasn't able to get back from that, unfortunately. So I'm interested to see how this next game plays out here. And to see if the initial setup is as good as we saw last time for Jake as well, because we saw all those Pokemon out initially. If that doesn't happen, I feel like it could be way clunkier. What do you think, Chip?
Yeah, and also the other thing for Jake, too, is that he did miss the turn 2 attack. He missed the turn 2 Venomoth and the energy. So if he can do that this game, maybe things look a little bit different. Overall, as Connor, I think you're feeling pretty decent. The path to the peak, you know, we mentioned the collapse stadium, but the path to the peak, that other stadium really was massive as well, being able to turn off those Spidops, get that retreat, and move into something else.
All right, so there's the prize cards for both our players. And we're kicking off this game 2 in our round 4 stream match here for you all. Tarantula going to be our active here for Jake, and we're going to see a Battle VIP pass as well. So, you know, we were debating if we're going to see all those Pokemon that we saw last game, and it looks like that is going to be the case. We're going to see that round. Oh, sorry. I guess it's 2 round boys coming out here, Chip, in that Venonat and the Tarantula as well. An additional level ball is going to bring another Pokemon out. So no worries here on the lack of Pokemon.
Yeah, pretty good theme here from Jake, I would say. Lots of round Pokemon. You've got Level Ball, that's round as well. You know, that's in the deck. We've got, what?
You should start circling all the circles, Chip. Just start circling them.
1,
there you go.
2,
We got many
3,
circles here.
4. Trekking shoes, that's not very round.
No, that's not very round.
Off theme.
Well, we'll see what Jake is able to get off of this trekking shoes. It must be something good. Oh, another round. Another round partner indeed, but not going to come down just yet. We're just going to see that grass come down first onto that bench Venonat, and then is going to put that third Venonat in play. So,
you know what I noticed about the energy symbol, Boo?
What's that?
It's round.
It's round. I thought you were about to say it's a leaf, because it's called grass, but it's a leaf. It makes no sense to me, but yeah, it is round indeed, Chip. That is true. Well, we will see what Connor is able to do on this first turn. Such an awkward first turn in the last game, so hopefully it's a bit better here. We have that Miraidon EX in the active, which is going to allow Connor to just pop off a tandem unit right away, get a nice look through the deck, as well as bring out those other lightning Pokemon.
It will be, tandem unit does find at least one Raikou here. Thinking about the other choices, this hand is not super good at this point. Doesn't look like a hand that's going to be capable of pulling off the turn 1 attack right now. I don't even see a great draw supporter. Looks like just a boss's orders. It's kind of an awkward start here for Connor. Definitely going to have to maneuver away here to figure something out. If only Tandem Unit could maybe go get the Squawk ability, I think that would be pretty solid.
Oh,
but
yeah, true.
only gets the Lightning Pokemon.
Yep, Squawk ability is not yellow. Indeed, it is going to be that colorless Pokemon. So we'll see what Connor does here. Going really slow. We still have 26 minutes left on the clock, though. That game one didn't really take too long for our players, but just going through slow, thinking things out. We are going to see that Mareep the Sheep come down onto the field here for Connor. So it's looking like, honestly, kind of setting up the board as we saw last time, Chip.
We do see the attach return and a switch card. It looks like maybe fleet-footed, hoping for a little bit of help.
Yeah, fleet-footed. Oh,
okay.
Wow. Just drawing into the Squawk ability from the fleet-footed. That is pretty epic. Wow, he's not going to use it, though. He's actually just going to hold on to it and pass over to Jake now.
Yeah, I like that decision. Connor is holding on to a Path to the Peak in the hand, and we saw how important that card could be in this matchup. So ditching that for a Squawk ability doesn't really seem worth it.
Very true, Chip. Yeah, you got to hold on to all of your important resources, as we said, especially going up against one of these slow decks, primarily one prize decks. Got to hold on to what you can. That's going to disrupt that and kind of turn things in your favor. So we're going to see Jake now lining things up. We saw the Iono to start off the turn here for both of our players. So both drawing into 6 prize cards.
And we do see Ultra Ball. We see a Grass Energy. We see another Spidops, I think, in the hand as well. Jake has got everything he needs to pull off the turn 2 Perplexing Powder. And all Connor could do on his turn was play one single item card. So Connor's deck is now going to be full of cards that are unable to be utilized.
Yep, we're going to see that attach into the retreat on the Tarantula. Venomoth coming up here, Spidops EX. Going to be evolved into on the bench as well, and that is exactly right. Perplexing Powder, not only going to confuse that Raikou V in the active position, but also not allow Connor to play any item cards at the moment. So there is a couple supporters there in the hand for Sealstone. Also going to come down here.
Able to be played. It does say it's an item card, but let's remember that tool card errata. They are 2 different types of cards now. Tool cards are their own classification, so they can still be played even though Venomoth attacked last turn.
Which I believe is how it used to be, right? Like,
no, this
is
the
were
first
separate?
time it's been different.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
Tool cards have basically always been item cards.
So now they're totally separate here. So that is something that can be played, which is definitely cool to see. Ooh, we're going to see that collapsed stadium. We saw how pivotal it was in our last game, and it's coming down once again here for Connor.
Yeah, and with 4 Pokemon already on the bench for Jake, going to be unable to have a spot for something like that Alakazam, that Radiant Alakazam to move the damage around. Connor here kind of debating what to do. I think he does still have Fleet-Footed available. I don't know if he's used it just yet, but he also can just attack, flip the coin, and I think that's what we're going to see. Here we go, Lightning Rondo, and it is a Tails, so Connor will damage himself.
Yeah.
Raikou taking 30.
Taking 30 damage. The confusion is in effect for sure here for Connor. And now we're over to Jake. That's exactly what Jake wanted to see. Just taking more damage, stacking up those damage counters, and we're going to see another Iono here. I feel like we've seen one of these almost every single turn here for Jake. So you can see this is a very pivotal part of the strategy here for Jake. If you know you're going to be behind on prize cards eventually in the game as well, and you need that draw support, it's a great card to have.
Do see an Ultra Ball in the hand. This can maybe get another Venomoth. You just want to make sure you have everything you need to
prep.
Keep this stream of attackers going. All it takes is for Connor to hit one 50-50, right? Hit one single heads on the attack, and you're going to need a replacement Venomoth ASAP.
Yeah, and you see that pretty often in, I mean, this is a kind of a different variation of a control deck, but it definitely is sort of controlling what you can do and controlling your board state. I mean, you can't play any items, so that's rough, but you definitely see a lot of setup here and a lot of moments where you have to have things aligned, because if you miss that one card, your opponent can just absolutely capitalize on that and swing the game right around. And we saw that multiple times in our last game for Jake, whiffing that energy and that knockout, and of course that Venonat being down. So we'll see what Connor chooses to do here now that that Venomoth has added some additional damage to the field. And of course, Perplexing Powder is still in play.
Yeah, I think seeing the second Raikou come down could be really strong. I think it's probably your best attacker. It's super energy efficient, only has one retreat, so when you play the path, you can move it into another one. I wonder if it's actually in the prize cards, though, as we have not seen anything grabbed here off of Tandem Unit.
Oh yeah, just shuffling up here now for Connor. All right, so
here we go.
Fleet-footed.
Yeah, can use it this time. Yep.
Yes. Yeah, making sure there. I believe that's a...
Ultra Ball.
Oh, an Ultra Ball. I thought it was a boss for a second. It's kind of like same colors, but Ultra Ball going to be drawn into the hand off that Fleet-footed. We also haven't seen the energy attachment for turn yet, so Connor's going to get that done for sure on this turn.
And I think we're just going to have to go for the Lightning Rondo again. You got to hit a heads at some point, right?
50-50 chance. All right, path to the peak.
Interesting
coming into
turn
play.
to try to utilize the path.
Yeah, it's going to bump that collapsed stadium here.
And it is a heads hit. That will be a knockout. Connor takes a prize. Jake loses Venomoth.
Wow. So, yep, that is awesome. That's what you want to see get going on taking these prize cards here, taking out these Venomoth that are disrupting you so much. And, of course, not taking your damage and not taking a knockout is also good as well. Jake going to kick off this turn with a Bruno. Now that that Venomoth has gone down, we're going to be able to see the full utilization of that card to draw into 7 cards to the hands.
Yep, perfect turn to play the Bruno without a doubt. Going to be looking for maybe that Alakazam to get moving. A replacement stadium definitely is high on the priority list. And actually, that's probably the best stadium that Jake could have drawn here. That Pokemon League headquarters. Attacks used by each basic Pokemon in play, both yours and your opponents, of course, do cost 1 colorless more. So will force Connor to either find another replacement stadium or put an additional energy onto this Raikou, which is another just big commitment that you don't want to have to make if you don't have to.
Yep, of course, Jake is playing all these evolution Pokemon, so it's not really applicable if you're not playing basics on Jake's side of the field. So that's pretty nice. We're just going to see that Venomoth number 2 coming into play here with this Perplexing Powder. The Raikou V is still confused, so it's continuing to be confused here on our field for Connor. But yeah, that underlayer of that Pokemon League headquarters adding that additional energy to be needed from Connor, and we're going to see the attachment to the bench here from Connor.
Yeah, this tells me that Connor is either ready to force Sealstone for a stadium or already has one in the hand, and I actually didn't notice one in the hand, so I think it will be the use of this Forest Sealstone on the Raichu. Even getting out a path to the peak seems pretty solid here, too. Also could play a supporter to see if you just draw it naturally, and I think that is what we will see first as Judge comes into play.
Yeah, both of these players going to shuffle up and draw into 4 cards, so we'll see if Connor is able to draw into that here chip.
And it's a pretty good turn to play the Judge as well. You know your opponent just filled their hand up pretty large with the Bruno that they played on the previous turn. So take this opportunity, limit them as much as possible, and of course you are crossing your fingers and hoping that you're going to get the heads flip on this confusion.
All right, 4 cards here for Connor and of course for Jake as well. Let's see what Connor gets.
I don't see a stadium. We do have Fleet-footed to utilize still as well.
Oh, and it's just the Squawkabilly going to join the hand off that Fleet-footed, so not able to be utilized here for Connor.
Yeah, going to have to commit the Forest Sealstone now. Would have liked to have saved it if he could have, but definitely still just worth going for. If I'm Connor, though, I'm going to be crossing my fingers that there's not another one of those things I have to try to deal with. As Connor has already utilized several stadium cards. I think this is his 3rd stadium now coming into play.
Yeah, absolutely. So there we go. Forest Sealstone going to flip over that V-Star marker. You can only use 1 per game, and that is going to get that bump for the stadium here that Connor needed. Any card. What a nice tool card to have for sure.
I think the ideal turn to play it would have been maybe like next turn if you could retreat into the Miraidon to like guarantee the attack, something like that. But this is what Connor...
get out of your confusion.
Yeah, kind of has to do here. Just go for the confusion. And it is going to be a Tails. That's 30 more damage stacking up onto Raikou V.
Yep, 30 more damage there onto Connor, hitting himself essentially. And we're back over to Jake now. Venomoth, of course, still in the active after that confusion did not hit through. Trekking Shoes going to discard a Nest Ball and go for that second card that was drawn. Was it the Venomoth of the Trekking Shoes?
Yep, pretty solid hit.
Nice. Venomoth going to be evolved into immediately here. Then we're going to see this Clara as well.
Yeah, can grab a couple energy cards, can grab a
Pokemon.
1/1 line of that Venomoth to bring back into play. Pretty strong. Of course, if you do bench this Venonat, you don't have any bench space remaining for Alakazam, which you might want later down the line, but you're assuming something's going to get KO'd, and eventually you'll be able to utilize it.
Yep, so that Venonat is going to come down here after that. Clara brings it all back into the hand. Of course, in addition to that energy, going to come down onto the field on that Venomoth.
Just stacking up the damage more and more. And now here's where Connor needs to ask if it's worth it to go for the confusion flip. Because now if you flip tails, your Raikou gets KO'd.
Yeah, it was kind of a ticking timer there for Connor, and things are starting to look a little tricky here for sure. So we'll see what Connor chooses to do here now. Of course, we do have that energy in hand already for Connor to be able to attach, line it up on that Miraidon EX to fully charge it up.
It does have the Iono. Is now the time to try to see a few more cards? Looks like it is. Both players now shuffling their hands to the bottom of the deck. And draw a card for each of those remaining prize cards. Connor here will be able to commit the retreat with that Path to the Peak being in play. It does negate the Spite Ops. They're no longer increasing the retreat cost
the trapped
of
territory.
These Pokemon. Yep. So we can see that Raikou now go to the bench, Miraidon coming active, and this is a guaranteed attack.
Guaranteed attack here from Connor, as well as that Bravery Charm going to come down, help out that Raikou V as far as the HP. We're going to see the attack to knock out that Venomoth now that has been kind of stuck there in the active. An additional prize card here for Connor. And we're back over to Jake. Luckily for Jake, got into another Venomoth in that last turn, which was huge. We're going to see that basic grass energy come down onto the Spite Ops EX on the bench as well into another Trekking Shoes to get some more options to the hand.
Jake does have Boss's Orders in the hand, finds another one here off the shoes as well. I think this would have been a pretty good time to try to stall something in the active spot, but the big problem is, of course, this Path to the Peak. It turns off those Spite Ops, and everything on Connor's side of the field has just one retreat. So if you bring anything up, your opponent just needs one single energy, and they'll be able to move it to the bench. So it's not worth doing unless you could also replace the stadium.
Yeah, that is unfortunate for sure. So we'll have to see what Jake is able to do here, but we're going to see that Super Rod.
Now, the fortunate thing for Jake is that Miraidon cannot attack in consecutive turns. That's the effect of the Photon Blaster.
True.
So it cannot attack. Connor will just have to pass. So you're guaranteed to buy yourself at least a turn here, more than likely. The problem would be if the Path to the Peak does not get removed and Connor finds another energy to put onto, like the Raikou, for example, in order to be able to bring it to the active and attack.
Ooh, we're going to have to see how this plays out. Chip, we saw that Super Rod shuffling back and then into the Bruno. Of course, something was knocked out on the last turn, so drawing into 7 cards, and that Temple of Sinnoh was one of those cards. That's going to come into play, shutting down any special energy cards, but also bumping that Path to the Peak out of the way. Radiant Alakazam is going to have room now on the bench to come down as well and spread around some damage counters potentially here for Jake. And we'd also see another Venomoth now that Super Rod was played to shuffle some stuff back into the deck here.
So Jake's got the setup.
That's it, yeah.
This is the board that you want to get to, but now you just have to try to piece together a way to take all 6 of your prize cards, and maybe more so than find a way to take all 6 of your prize cards, you need to find a way to deny your opponent taking all 6 of theirs.
Yep, and of course Connor is sitting at 4 prize cards right now. Also, unfortunately, sitting with a confused Miraidon EX as well as a bulky Miraidon EX, thanks to those Spite Ops trapping it with its little spider strings in the active position there. So we'll see what Connor is able to do here. How many stadiums have we really seen from both of our players so far, Chip?
Yeah, I think this is 3 down for Connor. He played the collapsed early, played a path to bump his own collapsed, and then played that other path to bump the Pokemon League HQ. So now 1 Path to the Peak remaining in deck for Connor. And that's kind of hard to draw just
Yeah.
a one-of card. If you're not able to thin with your item cards, you're limited to just playing your one supporter per turn. We'll see what he can make happen.
Of course, that V-Star was already used to search out that path to the peak last time. So we'll have to just see the draw into it here from Connor. We're going to see that energy attachment for the turn here for Connor. That's single energy.
And, of course, Connor not able to attack.
Yeah.
Does just have to pass.
Yep, just has to pass here because that Miraidon EX's last move. And it's stuck up in the active. Jake on this side of the field now has the opportunity to play that boss's orders. Bruno was the supporter in the last turn to get into those cards, get that stadium, but now boss's orders is going to be the choice here to get that Mareep up into the active, keep it there as long as possible, and continue to spread around these damage counters.
And honestly,
confusing.
I mean, I'm being serious when I say this as Connor. I think that you're going for the attack with the Mareep, and you're hoping to flip tails. You're hoping that this Mareep gets KO'd, and that you get the opportunity to bring your Miraidon back to the active spot. Even though you know it's going to get hit and confused, you at least give yourself a chance to do something. You at least give yourself a 50-50 to attack and take a knockout.
Did you ever think you'd be
He's
saying
doing
that,
it. He's
Chip?
doing it. And he does flip heads.
It is a heads.
And you can see Connor even shaking his head, kind of saying, I wanted tails in that spot.
How has it come to this, Chip? Oh, my goodness.
And we are going to see now Jake just using that Alakazam, moving that damage over to this Raikou V, trying to cash in on that damage from earlier on in the game.
Take some prize cards.
And take a couple prizes, exactly.
Yep, just going to be that perplexing powder. Everything is set up here for Jake. It's just whether or not he can figure out the rest of the strategy and hope it continues to go well here.
Connor here is considering playing boss, and honestly, this is a pretty tantalizing target, if you ask me. Maybe even the Radiant Alakazam. You haven't seen any switch cards from Jake yet. You don't really know what's in their list. Try to bring one of these Pokemon into the active potentially, and just pass for the turn, and hope that maybe Jake doesn't have a way to move him.
Return stall in a way.
And it is the tails. Mareep goes down. Jake gets a prize. Connor now will be able to promote this Miraidon EX.
All right, here we go. Miraidon coming into the active here now for Connor. After, of course, that tails flip. So we're over on to Jake's side. That single prize card. This is our first prize card taken off of that Mareep for Jake.
Oh, and we might actually see Jake here now go on the aggressive. So this is a good response for this play. Spidop's not only useful for its trap territory, but it has the wire hang attack. And you might say, well, Miraidon's got just one retreat. Not right now. It's got 4 retreats. So that wire hang is dealing a base 210 damage.
Yep.
And even with that Temple of Sinnoh, it doesn't
it
reduce the damage.
The double turbo. That's awesome. So
wow,
it's just a
perfect math.
That is perfect math indeed. We're going to see Spidop's EX take a knockout here on Miraidon EX, taking down a bulky, powerful Pokemon in our meta here today from just a nice little spider hanging here. Connor going to respond here by promoting that Raichu V into the active position. I got to say, Chip, I'm so hyped right now.
Yes, crazy moments that we're seeing happen in this game.
I love this.
And to be honest as well in this spot, I mean, that was a great turn from Jake. Took a lot of prizes, cleared Connor's biggest threat off the board, but it does come at a cost. Venomoth did not attack. Connor can now play all of these item cards that he's been holding on to for multiple turns at this point. Yeah,
this is really the opportunity Connor has to get things done on this turn here. We're going to see the Ultra Ball discarding 2 cards here to bring out another Pokemon. It's going to be another Mareep coming down onto the field here for Connor.
Another Mareep hitting the field. Still wanting to try to get the Flaffy into play to get some energy cards back, it looks like. We will see Electric Generator as well. Looking at the top 5, do we see a couple energy cards?
Ooh, yeah, we do indeed, Chip. 2 energy cards here off of that Electric Generator. Going to be put onto the benched Pokemon here now. So Connor is getting the full utilization of these item cards in this turn. It's exactly what he wants to be doing at this point in time. Establish his board even more here, and just left with a couple supporters, I believe, in the hands now.
And by discarding all of the energy in play, Connor will be able to take out this Spidops. There's so much going for Spidops already. It's got a decent attack, an annoying ability, and it's got a pretty hefty amount of HP as well, 260. So Connor is going to be forced to ditch a bunch of energy cards, but that's a huge card to play right now, Boo.
Yeah, that is huge indeed. We're going to see the Iono here.
Perfect time to play it right after your opponent took a KO and right before you're going to take your own KO. And finds a couple more electric generator.
Oh my goodness. Wow, that's even better because if you're having to discard your energy, having more energy available to you is what you want. So
that's
awesome.
The nature of not being able to play your item cards for the
game.
entire
Yeah.
They just stick around in your deck, so you're going to draw them in the mid to late game.
All right, Connor is going to bring out that Flying Pikachu V here onto the bench.
We do see a couple of generators. Let's see how they're played and where do these energies want to go.
If there is energies, there weren't that many left in the deck after we saw the shuffle. It's going to be a whiff on that first electric generator here from Connor. So going to have to shuffle up here in order to play another one.
And does have one in hand. Also a Bravery Charm drawn as well, so that's a way you could make one of these Pokemon maybe stick around a little longer. Could be solid too.
Second electric generator just off screen there, unfortunately for Connor, but it looks like everything that Jake has done with the deck to get into this moment here now. Of course, we saw that Iono. Chip, you were talking about great time for Connor to play it before he takes these prize cards, but not a great time to see it if you're on Connor's side from your opponent, only being able to draw into 2 cards off of that Iono. And then we're back into the Perplexing Powder being getting onto the field here, and that Raichu V is now confused.
Arvin will be utilized, searching the deck for a tool card and an item card. Of course, the item not able to be played, but that Bravery Charm, it's fair game.
Indeed. So Connor looking through the deck here, grabbing a switch cards and that Bravery Charm.
Just wishing he could play it.
I know, right? Please. That would be phenomenal, but that Venomoth is still locking the item cards here from Connor's side, and there's nothing he can do about it at this spot in time. So just going to be the attach of that energy.
We're going for the fast charge. No way. There's the flip, and it is a heads.
There you go.
And Connor, trying to set up for a way to make something happen in a future turn here.
Yep, at least going to be able to get that fast charge and accelerate that energy out of the deck here for Connor. And that's going to be the end of the turn here now. Of course, 30 damage on that Raichu from that Venomoth, but we're seeing the boss's orders. The exact same strategy we've seen in both of our games so far here from Jake. Bringing up that Mareep, sticking it in the active, spreading around these damage counters with that Radiant Alakazam.
Yep.
Things are working here for this Venomoth.
And Connor is with this threatening game pretty soon. There's a lot of damage built up on that Raikou V. 240. It only has 10 HP left. He just needs to Alakazam the damage over, and then would only have 1 prize left, would be able to use Spidops to take the knockout on the Mareep. And Connor sees the writing on the wall, concedes. We're going to game 3. Jake Ewart getting a win with the Venomoth Spidops deck. Wow, Boo. Would not have expected this.
Yeah, it was definitely a grind to get there, but we expected that from this heavily set up deck here. But Jake is taking things down with Spidops EX. The only thing now is, Chip, there's only less than 3 minutes left on the clock between our players. They're 1-1 here, so can still walk away with a tie between them, which still is not bad if you're at a 3-0 record so far in this tournament. But I'm just happy to see Spidops EX come onto the stream and now take a win here against Miraidon.
Yeah, in a spot like this, there's probably only 2 results that could possibly happen. Either this game just doesn't complete, we don't have enough time for the game to complete. Obviously, these players are both going to get set up, and then they'll recognize the situation and say, okay, yeah, we tie. But what also could happen is that Jake could have a kind of slow start, and Connor could, since his deck is so consistent and fast, just take a turn 1, turn 2 knockout and clear Jake's board. And try to prize race in this spot and just hope that Jake doesn't get set up. Jake does have the more set up deck, so in these positions, decks like Connor's are the ones that find themselves being favored.
Yeah, it's definitely not over yet. We're going to go to the end of time once these players start playing, but then we still have those 3 additional turns.
Ooh.
So if Connor can make things work here, could potentially clean up. Wow, look at these prize cards, Chip.
Yeah, a couple of Venonat,
no.
and then 3 Lightning Energy for Connor. Neither player really loving it.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen Jake so many times get all
Attach
these
pass.
Pokemon. No! Connor just attaching to the Mareep here, passing over to Jake, and we see 2 Battle VIP pass coming down for Jake. So we're not going to see the lack of Pokemon here, but we are kind of still going to see that because there's 2 Venonat in the prize cards for Jake. So is able to play the Battle VIP pass, but definitely going to switch up the Pokemon that are coming out here with it.
Yeah, this is, maybe I spoke too soon by saying Connor's deck would be the one that could be the aggressor in this spot. If Connor doesn't have anything in hand, you have to imagine there's at least a supporter or something waiting in there that you can't play turn 1. But if Connor just truly has nothing, and Jake can get a turn 2 Venonat with an energy, it does 2-hit KO a Mareep.
Gosh. Yeah, this is actually going to come down heavily on the top deck for Connor here. See what can happen. Those boss's orders being stuck in the hand as the supporters here for Connor for the future turn. Jake having all these Pokemon out here ready to evolve. Ooh,
does find an Io.
Very, very nice.
Connor can breathe a sigh of relief.
Yeah, that is great to see here. So Connor's going to be able to shuffle all these cards that were unplayable now going to the bottom of the deck, which is going to allow both of these players to draw into 6 new cards for their prize cards. Here in play. So Connor going to get fresh 6 cards, not have to worry about those current unplayable cards, and hopefully get some Pokemon out.
Yeah, hopefully get some Pokemon out. I think time has expired, so we'll get confirmation, but Connor should be turn 0 here most likely. Doesn't find a Miraidon, but at least gets a Raichu V, it looks like.
Yep, going to see the energy attachment onto that Raichu V on the bench here. And
Still not much going on.
Oh, yeah, just going to have to pass over to Jake now.
Hey, don't forget. Mareep here. It's dealing a little bit of damage, okay?
Oh, yes,
10 damage.
Sorry. We have the 10 damage here on that Venonat. Yeah, I think these players both see what's going on here. They're just going to take the tie between both of them. So both of the undefeated records are now 3-0-1 currently in Peoria.
What a game, Boo. What a slog fest. Venomoth, excuse me, just slamming into these lightning
There was Venonats over there.
Hey, yeah, they were chilling. They were rolling around down there on the bench.
Yep.
But it does end up being a tie here. Yeah, I have to wonder maybe in game number 2 if Connor could have limited 1 or 2 more things being put into play. Maybe he could have snuck out the win in game number 2. Of course, after winning game 1, it was in a solid position. But as it stands, these players both are going to come away with 1 match point apiece.
I mean, it's still awesome to see both of these decks here. Miraidon was unable to take the win in our first stream match. Now this stream match taking a tie here, but you know, seeing Spidops, EX, and Venomoth on our stream is definitely not something I expected. But I also want to mention to you all, we're adding some chat interactivity to this stream. You can actually vote on our next match that's coming up here for your stream. So if you you don't want to see any more Miraidon, maybe, why don't you vote for one of those 4 options that we have coming up here?
It's going to be over on the Twitch channel in Twitch chat. You'll be able to vote over there. Be sure to check it out and let us know who you are hoping to see coming up next.
Yeah, I think that is awesome, Chip. You know, we always have a very active Twitch chat with everybody watching the stream, so it's cool that we get to kind of involve them in the stream, and maybe you see the deck that you want to see out of those options. Yeah,
without a doubt. So if you're watching maybe over on YouTube or something like that, maybe just sneak over to Twitch, maybe check it out, see if you can get your vote in, and make your voice heard so that we can maybe see your favorite player, your favorite deck. I'm not sure how we're going to do it. Are we going to say what decks people are playing, what just players that we're going to be
I think it's for deck
potentially?
Options, I believe.
Okay, interesting.
So we'll see. We'll have to see how it
you guys will
happens.
Find out as we do, most likely.
Yes,
so.
Exactly. New option for us here on the stream, but always great to have. But yeah, you could see another potential match like that. I mean, we'll have to see what the options are, but I don't know if Spidops is going to be one of those options, though, Chip.
Yeah, that might have been our one chance to see Venomoth in Spite Ops on the stream, possibly ever. So
Yeah,
I
that's
think
so
we had
true.
to jump at the opportunity there.
Absolutely.
Pretty cool to get to feature something like that. That's one of the things I see most often from people is that they just want to see unique decks. And I think that Venomoth Spite Ops absolutely fits that bill.
Oh, definitely. And it's nice to put that out there on a stream. I mean, I love the players that are able to bring these decks that some people just are saying, oh, that's not going to compete with the meta here. But
Yeah.
when we see that player get a breakthrough, 3-0 start with a deck like that, it's just great. Because then we can feature on the stream and put it in front of